So as we all know, men are much more rational beings. They thrive off knowledge, facts, statistics. They look at the merit. Are you good at something or are you not good at something? Oftentimes, our mentality is about fixing things, solving a problem, breaking through barriers and overcoming a challenge in our life. And while these are obviously fantastic skills to have, one thing that men do get caught up in is forgetting about how you make people feel. This is really the key in either attracting people to you or pushing them away, is that nuanced idea that you need to think about how exactly are you making people feel when you interact with them. Because especially in men's self-improvement, we love to read a book, watch a video, learn, okay, if you do this, it does this. Or if I look a certain way, I'll bring in a certain woman. Or if I understand this thing, it will get me this thing. But what really boils down to is that you can't ride this ability of skills and facts and knowledge, little tidbits, into convincing somebody to like you, okay? And probably the best example to illustrate this is with women, because so many of you out there are learning, okay, how do I do something to get, attract more women? Or I'm learning the true nature of men and women, and I'm going to share this information. Now, it could be interesting, especially when you're speaking with other men, and women may find it interesting as well. But this is usually using the rational side of your brain, and you think that by spouting off statistics, and this is what women really do, that somehow a woman is going to think, oh, okay, so I do that, so wow, you know a lot about women, now I like you. And unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You have to remember, how do you make them feel? And usually information, numbers, stats, data doesn't make people feel super good, especially women. The way you make women feel good is through being playful, through being charming, through things that are more emotionally based, right? So let me give you an example, using myself as an example, as a director. Now, as a director, I am in charge of productions. I do commercial work. So I'm in charge of what happens on screen, the performance of the actors, the camera angles, and all these things like that. And, pardon me. But when I'm on set, I don't sit around talking technically about those things. Now, yes, if I'm working with my cameraman and need to tell him a certain lens and certain things like this, I will use technical jargon, like use this certain lens, let's light it like this, all very technical speak to get something done, right? We have a goal, let's get it done. But when I'm interacting with them, even if with the camera, even if I'm explaining things technically, it is how I say it, the attitude that I have, and the approach, the overall ambiance I'm creating with the way I speak, my facial expressions, my body language, that makes them feel a certain way. So when I'm on set, I am much more interested in getting people to feel comfortable, having them laugh. I'll crack jokes. I'll use a little bit of wit and charm. Or I'll connect with my actors. How's it going? How's your day going? I'm not talking about technical things about acting necessarily. Now, that may be part of our conversations, but when I'm doing it, what I'm really thinking about is, how am I interacting with them, and how am I making them feel? Are they trusting me more? Okay, so by me being decisive, by me giving clear direction, I make them feel secure. I'm not going to say, well, I studied this technique, so you will do this, or you will feel this way. No, I take the techniques that I've learned and filter them through a fun conversation so they so we can build a rapport together, and they trust me. They see that, okay, he knows what he's talking about, and I really want to listen and follow this guy and trust him. Because as an actor, you're putting yourself on the line, and it's you could be self-conscious. You don't want to look like a fool in front of the camera. So you want, whoever you're working with, you want to trust them. And this is the same for women. A lot of guys want to be a leader with women in the relationship, which is natural because in a relationship, the man should be the leader. But if you explain it to a woman like, hey, I'm the man, so you should follow me. This is the way it's made, and this is the data says that when a man leads, then a woman wants to follow, and she feels better. That's not convincing anybody. And there's a great saying by Rollo Tomasi, Rational Males, that no one ever rationalized a woman into bed. Okay, you made her feel a certain way. She felt comfortable, and she wanted to get intimate with you. So keep this in mind, because as men, we tend to gravitate towards the rational side of our brain, okay? So here's what I would suggest for you guys as a way to counteract some of the rational thinking and the way you approach conversations is your knowledge, how smart you are, how good you are at something, your levels of merit. If you're a really good basketball player, or if you're a really good musician, whatever it is, let those things be the foundation to your personality, to who you are. Okay, so again, in my case, directing, I'm a good director. I let that give me confidence, and I let that influence then. I'll use that level of confidence to speak in a calm manner, to speak in a very direct and decisive way. And this, in turn, because I have that knowledge and that data in my head and act it out with how I interact with people, now I'm able to use that to make them feel a certain way. Even as I'm talking to you right now, I know so much about men and women, the dynamics between masculine and feminine, that when I explain it to you, I can now sit back, relax, and enjoy it, and provide for you information that comes to you in a more entertaining, social, you feel more comfortable with me because I'm saying it in such a way that is approachable, and hopefully you feel comfortable and trust what I say, right? So the knowledge that you have is your foundation. This is what gives you your base, your foundation to build your confidence on, okay? And through this, use that to then work on how you make people feel, okay? So I wrote this down, and I want to just make sure I clarify this with you guys, is that your knowledge you should never really be flexing your knowledge, right? So you don't want to overtly say to someone, I'm good at this, or I'm an expert in this, so you should trust me. It's more along the lines of, because I know so much about a certain thing, I just am naturally confident, which that is the piece that draws people into you, that gets the trust from that person, whether it be someone you're working with or a woman that you're out on a date with. Because you understand male and female dynamics, you know how to behave in a way that will make her feel comfortable, or to make her feel intrigued, or for her to pull her curiosity out of her, for her to want to know more about you, right? So you've studied how to converse with women, or how to make small talk, or how to tease. And so you're just going to live those things. You're not going to explain to her, hey, women really respond well if I tease you, or if I'm cocky, or if I speak in such a way that you find engaging. You don't say that, right? You simply will look at a girl and start speaking to her using what you know. But you're talking about something completely different. So, for example, something so simple like, how's your day going? Really? Okay. Well, that sounds like a great day. What did you do after that? Things like that, where you're engaging, you're inviting, and you're smooth, okay? Keep that in mind. You want to be smooth. And again, this comes from your confidence in something that you're good at, okay? Because a lot of times we get nervous because we are simply not confident. We don't know enough about a certain thing to get to feel confidence, right? To base our actions on that confidence. But even if you don't know something, right? Like I don't know everything about filmmaking, but I know enough, and I know how to behave when I don't know something. So if I don't know a particular thing, it's really easy to be like, really? Oh, I've never heard that before. What is that all about? So now I'm opening up a conversation for someone to inform me and make them feel useful, for them to feel knowledgeable. I can adjust my tone of voice. So instead of being like, oh my God, I don't know what that is. What is that? Being very nervous, I can simply do things like, hey, you know what? I don't know what that is, but I'd love to know more. Tell me about what that is. You're inviting somebody to explain something to you, and you've done it in such a way that makes them feel good. So as much as men are rational, we do need to be able to develop the skill of making people feel a certain way. It's at the end of the day, there's that very famous saying is that people make decisions based on feeling, then they use logic and reason to justify their decisions. Very key, because again, a lot of guys like to spout facts. And again, I'll say this again, especially men who are learning things in the men's self-improvement sector. They want to flex their knowledge. I've studied this, I've read this book, and I know women do this. I know men should do that. And, women are unhappy when they do this. The more you spout those things, you create a barrier. You're distancing yourself. People may start to feel like a specimen versus someone that is engaged with you in a conversation. And that's the last thing that you want to make them feel, like they're under a microscope and that you're kind of manipulating what's going on and you're using data and facts to get them to do what you want to do. That's not going to make anybody feel good, man or woman. So, this is something very simple, but focus on using your smarts to give you the confidence, which you in turn use to make people feel good. And you never want to overtly flex your those analytical points. Of course, let me just buffer that by saying there are going to be times where yes, you do have to you can inject some of those things. Like let's say you are talking with a woman and she is and somehow the topic of marriage or dating or online dating comes up, and you happen to know that the number of matches women get versus men get is drastically different. Men barely get any matches where women get tons of matches. Now you can certainly, if that's the topic that comes up and there's a room in the conversation to where even she says something or asks a question about that, or the conversation goes in the direction where there's an opportunity to say, well, actually there's, men only get 1% of all the swipes that they do on online dating. So if that's the information that you want to share, you can share it in such a way like what I just did right now that does come across as a more emotionally based way of saying a factoid, a piece of data, right? So if she's saying like, I have so many, or guys have it easy. They just don't have to put makeup on and they can just go online date and, get a girl and go on a date. And you could say, well, you know what? It's funny because I was just reading an article that said out of 100 swipes, a guy will only get one match. Isn't that crazy? That's the odds are just unbelievably low, which is kind of crazy if you think about how many times your thumb has to swipe. You can guide it down that path of making something a little bit of a joke or say it in a charming way. That doesn't sound like you're teaching her like, so you wouldn't want to say it like, well, no, actually out of 100 swipes, 1% of men only get matches. And, you're very hard, you're data driven, you're cold facts, and because a lot of times it comes off as angry, You know, when you're trying to argue like, well, no, you're completely wrong. Out of 100 swipes, men only get one match, and that's ridiculous. And women have it easy. You know, women, according to the data, gets 90%. They get 90% of matches for every 10 swipes. The tone is you're making them feel attacked. So you can learn as much as you want to learn, but curtail that and curtail your desire to share what you've learned, because in all reality, in some ways, this is approval seeking behavior. You're trying to show off about how much you know in front of a girl or whoever it is, and it looks, and people can sense that. They can sense that you're trying to show off and win them over through facts, and that just will never work. Now, if you're in a debate, different story. What I'm talking about is human interactions on a day-to-day setting, in a date, on a date, at work, in environments where you're leading people. How you make them feel will affect whether they want to be with you or get away from you. So if you find yourself struggling with maybe making friends or getting to know your coworkers better, or even getting a second date, or getting a girl to, or escalation with a girl, getting her to feel comfortable enough so you can kiss her or hold her hand. Look at how you're addressing some of these things. And if you're getting too caught up with datas and numbers and factoids, dial that down and focus more in on what is the experience I'm giving them from an emotional perspective. Is how I'm behaving making them feel comfortable and good, or is how I'm behaving making them feel distant and putting blocks up? They want to and you can even see this physically. If you get too much on the offensive, you'll start to see women slowly start to turn away from you or close themselves off on a date, or just interacting with someone out at a store, a coffee shop, etc. Their body language will tell you that. So learn how to and sharpen your skills on how you're making people feel, and just use your smarts to give you confidence to slow down and enjoy a conversation versus trying to prove somebody wrong or prove yourself right. One more saying that is super relevant is you can either be happy or you can be right. Now, this is case by case, of course, but you get the general idea. Would you rather just have a good time with a girl, or do you trying to win an argument? Chances are it works to your advantage to just have a good time. Because I've been on dates where some of those heated topics come up that maybe there's a disagreement, maybe there's a fundamental difference in belief, and that's okay. And this may be a girl that you never want to see again. But again, you don't need to go down that route of trying to convince her of a different way of thinking. You can still maintain a level of levity and just be like, oh, really? Are we going to talk about those serious topics on this date here? I'm enjoying this drink. Let's have another one. What do you think? Something like that, where you're leading it and you want to go away from heavy duty feelings to fun, comfortable feelings that maybe will produce intimacy between the two of you. So keep this in mind, guys. It's very powerful to not get caught up in that rational way of thinking when you're interacting with people. When you're studying, when you're learning, when you're training, that's most likely fine. But outside of that, really focus on how you're making somebody else feel. So if you have not already, I invite you to subscribe to the channel. I put out videos every week. If you're interested in learning how to attract feminine women into your life, download my free guide below. And if you are interested in one-on-one coaching with me, you're struggling in relationships, you have a life challenge that you need someone else to walk you through to come up with a game plan, I have links down below for my coaching programs. Click those and check out what I have. All right, that will do it for this video. We will see you in the next one.